Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the second session of this program, and we are going to be listening to a talk from our second keynote speaker. And without any waste of time, I'm going to be reading the professional profile of our second keynote speaker, who is none other than Dr. Shawa. Dr. Shawa is a senior lecturer in higher education and training and development at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, where he also coordinates postgraduate studies in higher education. His research interest includes higher education policy practices, higher education curricula and pedagogy, quality discourses in higher education and teacher education. In his career, he has served as a Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Education, coordinator of different postgraduate programs, and research fellow. Dr. Shawa's multidisciplinary research chiefly draws on philosophies and sociologies of policy. He holds a PhD from the Victoria University of Wellington in New Zealand and a Master of Education in Education Policy Studies from Stellenbosch University. He has published articles and chapters on aspects of higher education in peer-reviewed journals and books. So, colleagues, without any further ado, I'd like us to put our hands together for the presentation by Dr. Shawa.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, welcome to our second session. I really enjoyed listening to Professor Basheka. Thanks, Prof. I will be talking to issues, dealing with teaching first-year students, but reflecting on socialization and institutional cultures. Before I start, I want to say that I'm very grateful to be here. So I would like to thank Professor Vimbo and Dr. Machika and all the people that are organizing this symposium. Just a few days ago, colleagues, at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, we held our annual Distinguished Lecturers Award. During this time, we reward teaching and learning. And we learn from outstanding university lecturers and drive to enhance the scholarship of teaching and learning at UKZA. Colleagues, it is clear, very clear, that we need concerted efforts to improve teaching and learning in all universities in South Africa. This symposium, for me, that you have organized to improve teaching and learning should certainly be appreciated and encouraged. I think we do need such symposia to be given great attention and priority. Let me turn to the core message of my address. So to you colleagues, lecturers, teaching first-year students, my core message is woven around Spring 2001, who argued, and I quote, "Teaching is more than a set of specific actions in which a particular person is helped to learn this or that. It is an activity in which the teacher is sharing in a moral enterprise, namely the initiation of usually, not always, usually young people into a worthwhile way of seeing the world, of experiencing it, of relating to others in a more human and understanding way." To me, I think that's very important, as we think about teaching and learning is not just a set of teaching this or that. Colleagues, I first present the following aspects that I regard very, very important for lecturers teaching first-year students. That lecturers engaged in teaching first-year students have a first-hand role of socializing students in higher education. And I think this must be very clear, that we are ushering students in higher education, and therefore we have a great role in socializing them. That lecturers teaching first-year students contribute greatly to the institutional culture that develops within the university. Colleagues, that lecturers teaching first-year students should acknowledge the influence of the unintended, the hidden curriculum on the socialization of students. That indeed, in our teaching first-year students, we should strive to go beyond narrow epistemological conceptualizations to thick epistemological as well as ontological conceptualizations that view students as becoming, students as being, students as human beings. Colleagues, that indeed lecturers teaching first-year students should engage critically with their life world, or the taken for granted aspects that in fact shape their teaching and interaction with students. Lastly, I'll be talking to the fact that lecturers teaching first-year students should perhaps pay special attention to the visions and missions of the universities that they serve. Colleagues, I will now tend to these issues. I will tend to these issues later. Allow me now to first engage with the notions, briefly, of socialization and institutional cultures. While there may be contested understandings of the notion of socialization, as you may know, I employ Brim's 1966 definition as presented by Weidman, a great sociologist, that socialization is the process by which persons acquire the knowledge, skills, and dispositions that make them more or less effective members of society. Colleagues, this understanding has serious implications. That depending on what students experience at a higher education institution, they may be socialized negatively or positively. To put it clearly, lecturers teaching first-year students can contribute to negative or positive socialization of their students. This is not to claim that they are the only entities involved in socializing students, but to claim rather that they have a very big role, or probably much bigger role than we might imagine and think. Briefly, let me look at the notion of institutional culture. While there may be contested understandings of the notion of socialization, just as the term socialization tends to be contested, colleagues, the notion of institutional cultures too is. For our purposes, however, it suffices to draw on Stein and Vine 2001, who, writing on the topic at the University of Cape Town, posit that the term refers to the sum total effects of the values, styles of interaction, collective memories, the way of life of the university. known by those who work and study in the environment, in the university environment, through their lived experiences. Colleagues, it is a pattern of shared assumptions developed over time, and so on. For people like Schneider, for example, they look at institutional cultures as embodying the basic assumptions about the world and the values that guide life in an organization, and in our case, in the university. Fellow academics, let us pause and ask ourselves the question: what experiences do we provide to our students through our teaching and in any form of interaction? Through the teaching and any form of interaction that we engage with students. Perhaps, in what ways do we think we contribute to the sum total effects of the values, styles of interaction, and collective memories of the VYE University? Whatever are your answers, I hope that if we genuinely reflect on these questions, we can begin to understand better the intricate connections of what we do as lecturers and the identity of our institution. In other words, I contained that there is an intricate connection between notions of socialization and institutional cultures within a university. Having established the socialization institutional culture link, let me turn to a particular theoretical framework that helps to show how lecturers like us could be involved in the process of socializing students in a university. And I draw on Weidmann's model of higher education socialization. For Weidmann, socialization in higher education is a series of processes whereby the student enters the institution as a freshman, as a new entrant, and then get exposed to various socializing influences, assesses those experiences, and challenges, or actually maintains these aspirations and goals, and so on. At the university level, thus, socialization involves a set of processes resulting in specific types of outcomes, according to Weidmann. This could be at an interpersonal level, where students with their lecturers and peers interact. It could be at an intrapersonal level, where students do their studies and attend the lectures and so on. But what happens is that there is an integration. Students get incorporated in the academic campus life, in the social life. Colleagues, your first year students will eventually acquire knowledge, skills, and dispositions. Colleagues, important to note that first year students come to the university with anticipations, get into the university environment, and interact formally and informally with lecturers, among others, and get socialized to form personal identities that they bring to the community, to the workplace, and to the world. Without any doubt, lecturers teaching first year students come at a crucial time for this group of students, as the group awaits the whole journey of university experience. We are very, very important. And students are. Let me now turn to some specifics. I think as academics, teaching first-year students, we will seriously need or are called upon to acknowledge the impact of the unintended, the hidden curriculum on the socialization of students. In the process of executing academic duties or the planned formal curriculum, lecturers ought to acknowledge or to become aware of the impact of the unintended, the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum can be said to refer to the unspoken, implicit values, behaviors, and norms that exist in an educational setting. These are aspects which students learn at an institution because of the way institutional activities are planned, or in fact, how lecturers mediate curriculum. In fact, how lecturers interact with students, and so on. Indeed, a lot of negative or positive socialization may in fact stem from the hidden curriculum. Colleagues, allow me to provide a few negative examples drawing on the wake of Arterian 2009. These are some examples. If you can't see, I'm going to read them. Lecturers, for example, who make personal negative remarks in class or elsewhere about fellow lecturers. What's the message? The message is clear. They socialize students that if you are in power, you can disregard tenets of respect. Another example. Lecturers who bring racial stereotypes in their class or in their interaction with students. What do? They socialize students to perpetuate racial divide or racial superiority and inferiority. Another example, lecturers who are late to classes or hold classes over. Do we have some lecturers who hold classes over or come late? Socializing students that time management is not important. For example, another example, lecturers who go to class unprepared. They just go to class, they just fish up. Socializing students that to be sloppy is acceptable. And lastly, I'm drawing this from Arterian. Lecturers who teach from the same notes every year. Every year is the same since 1964. You know, socializing students, that there's no need to rethink what and how we teach or how we do things. And when the students go through that system, they will also not think and rethink. I now briefly, colleagues, touch on guarding against a narrow epistemological conception. A narrow epistemological conception, what do I mean? So by narrow epistemological conception, I mean first, teaching solely for content, depositing knowledge, just telling students what it is, what engineering is, what chemistry is, and then they can go. Secondly, teaching solely for the skills demanded by the labor market. Solely for the labor market. Colleagues, universities solely based on this lack the very critical demands universities ought to advance. These discourses prioritize acquisition of knowledge and skills of students to be prepared for the workplace. Now, this school of thought is not wrong. It's not wrong. It is narrow, I would argue. I propose a thick epistemological conception. thick anthropological conception is concerned with adding value to the learning process. This is teaching that goes beyond the planned content. Mathematics, physics, accounting, mention what you teach. It is teaching and learning that is constructed around critical thinking, reasoning, citizenship skills, and so on. In other words, providing students with a way of seeing the world, of experiencing it, of relating to others in a more human and understanding way, beyond just knowledge acquisition. For example, students need to acquire citizenship skills to contribute positively to the building of a democratic society in our country. The classroom then should provide such experiences to students, whether through collaborative and cooperative learning, experiential learning, work integrated learning, constructive approaches, and so on. In other words, lecturers teaching first-year students should at the onset deal with the issues of methods. For the teaching methods we use have serious theoretical as well as practical implications in socializing students. Colleagues, having briefly talked to the need for thick anthropological concern, let me turn to ontological perspectives that view students as becoming, students as being. Whereas, as I have argued, knowledge acquisition is important, the overstress on the acquisition of knowledge is narrow. In line with Dalaba and Banako in 2007, I propose that lecturers teaching first-year students should also concern themselves with the question of becoming, who the students could become. In this dimension, the epistemological and ontological needs complement each other. Nothing is above the other. We don't just teach for knowledge. We teach to achieve, to contribute to human beings. For instance, in what ways do we make sure, for example, that in teaching engineering, we could help our students to go beyond just being clever engineers to human beings or responsible engineers? Such reflections should lead us to producing holistic engineers. The other important aspect I promise to talk to is the idea of the life world. The taken for granted aspects that shape us as human beings or lecturers. The notion of life world refers to a cultural, social, and shared meaning context. That's according to academics, according to people like Habermas and so on, the critical theorists. In fact, colleagues, the life world provides context in which actors come to know themselves, where they ask questions of each other, raising validated claims about what is true or false, right or wrong, about what we should or should not happen. At the University of we probably have our own life world. That there are some things we don't say, some things we do, just because we are in this space. We have a life world. This is a very powerful notion to consider. As human beings and as lecturers, we have inherited a way of thinking and acting that may unconsciously influence what we do, what we teach, and how we interact, and so on. It is possible it is possible that maybe we have acquired a life world that is segregative, a life world that could be racist, a life world that could be inhumane, and so on. In a way that we ourselves have been socialized. For this reason, as lecturers, we need to critique our life world. We need to critique our taken for granted aspects and be ready to change. Change for the better. Lastly, but not least, colleagues, may I turn to the vision and mission of your beautiful university. And Prof talked about that. Very few people seem to know the mission of the university. But don't worry, I have it here. So, channeling the university visions and mission. It would be naive, colleagues, not to touch on your university's vision and mission. For these are extremely important ingredients of socialization and institutional cultures. Your vision seeks to see the university lead in innovative knowledge and quality technology education. Again, your mission sees the university producing employable graduates who can make impact in society. And yet, all these are woven within values of excellence, creativity, mutual respect, collegiality, honesty, integrity, tolerance, diversity, and of course, in your excellent motto, your world to a better future. I'm just hoping that these are not just listed down. Colleagues, if you take your vision, your mission, your values, your motto seriously and reflect it in your interaction and engagement with your first-year students, you will be contributing positively to the socialization of young students, of your first-year students, and in fact, to the shaping of your institutional culture. I rest my case.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Shawa, for that interesting conversation. It is really mind-blowing and, it makes us ask a lot of questions. So without wasting too much of your time, guys, as I said, we must make sure that we do not run late for our lunch. I'm going to ask my colleague to help me with the roving mic so that we can take questions from the audience. Colleagues, any questions to ask Dr. Shawa? I guess there should be many. Okay, the first one, the second one over here, the third one. Okay, while you are still thinking what to ask, okay, the third one here. Can I kindly allow the first question to be posed? Yes, over to you.
You off? You on? Okay. Thank you. One is a question, one is a statement. A reflective statement. The first one, the question. I am in an environment where I work with students. And the most common challenge is that they come and say, when we write, we are not allowed to be active, we're not allowed to be creative, we must just look at the book and regurgitate. When you go to the library, you are going to find more information, you're going to research. Now, what's the use of that? because I can't quote it in answering my questions. I get a nice cross because I must quote his manual, her manual, or the textbook. The second one is that in my life before, I had co-authored with a number of my colleagues a workbook on extended programs. And we went on with that workbook until at a certain stage where our director said, this is enough, create something new. I remember, I'm not condoning lecturers what happens, but I remember we were just thrashed. We could not think of anything new. We just said, but this is okay. What is it new that she wants us to write about? So I don't say it's good, but that is what happened, and that is the danger that we fall into. We don't want to at that stage stretch our mind to think differently. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question and the comment. The second question.
I'd like to appreciate for both presenters this morning actually that they taught me something that will make my life much easier to live, because never in any of my presentation or preparations did I ever take time to look at the mission and vision of the university, which I believe would actually make my conversation with students much easier and telling them the value of what we're doing for them. So that's just a brief comment. I really appreciate that. From Dr. Shawa, I really appreciate the fact that, I'm actually from an engineering background, and social stuff is not really my strong point, but I'm actually learning a lot. I'm talking about the socialization and contribution to institutional culture. When I look at the student that I have in front of me every semester, I'm talking about the first year students here. I have a student that brings in front of me some kind of particular project. They came up with some form of learning style. This is what you see, and when you see this is how you react, and that is what it is. So the challenge at some point is I need to construct that. Apparently, I have to unteach what has been taught, because that student actually brings to me a pattern that tells them, listen, even when I ask your name, just ask for the formula and pull your calculator. That's correct. Now, how do I contribute to this culture? With an engineering student, I want them to understand that they spent 12 years of their life getting some science, language, mathematics, and that is part of the parts that they bring to me on the table so that we can work from that point onwards. It looks like and sounds like torture to my engineering student, because don't ask them to answer a phrased question. What is the formula and what is the answer? And that is very difficult. How do I engage that first year student that brings that to me as a parent? Because I want to get them into a culture of understanding that it isn't about the environment, about us. Formula are just another sentence that we construct about solving a problem. How do I get that student in what I believe a culture of excellence way? This is a problem. What are my fundamentals and how do I go about that? That is quite a challenge to me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Can I see a hand for the third question? Over here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shawa. My question is, who is supposed to teach the first year? From your presentation, I've learned that the lecturers for first year are the ones that set the foundation. They're supposed to understand the vision, the mission, and the values of the institution. They don't only look at the constructive alignment of the objectives of learning. They don't only look at the outcomes of the module, but they look at the critical cross-field outcome and the outcome of becoming a citizenship, contributing to our countries by looking at the strategy that the government is giving unto us. My question is, who's supposed to teach the first year students? Because you'll find that sometimes there's a debate that people, I don't know how to put it, I don't want to offend the lecturers, but sometimes you'll find that the lecturers, I don't know how can I put it, but I don't know which a proper word. The lecturer who's got the knowledge, I am referring to IQ, but you'll find that the lecturers who are not that much out on the EQ, or emotional intelligence, they tend to teach the first year lecturers. The junior lecturers tends to teach the first year lecturers who don't understand the vision, the mission, and the values of the institution, who still afraid maybe to stand before the students. So how can we accomplish what was presented here, whilst most of the people who teach the first year lecturers are novice lecturers? Sorry for the wait.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, I see 2 hands there. Yeah, first one.
Good morning. My name is Tish Farrell. I'm the Marketing and Brand Manager of the university. Extremely challenging job, but I suppose we will get there. I'm so glad that you, actually all the speakers have linked their presentations to the mission, vision, value and slogan of the university. Because that is actually the starting point of everything we do, whether it's teaching and learning or whether it's a support service, which is non-academic. And it's important that we view that as the backbone from where we will be putting our meat in our respective departments, faculties and disciplines. And to answer a little bit on Onika, whose responsibility is it? It's all our responsibility. The responsibility does not just lie in teaching and learning, which is the lecturers. From the day that our student recruitment team goes out into the market to market specific degrees or faculties or departments, degrees that we offer, that is actually where it all starts. That respective student should then already experience your will to a better future. And that is what we are selling outside. We are saying, come to BUT, this is your will to a better future. But unfortunately, as we know, reality is that we have, very impressive slideshows that we show at schools, and we go out and we headhunt, good sportsmen and the head boys and girls of schools. And then the day of registration, when they walk in, there is no will to a better future, unfortunately. So we have serious challenges at VUT in terms of our registration process. What we market outside to draw those students and what they actually experience the first day when they register is totally opposites. And that for me is a huge challenge in terms of taking the VUT brand to the next level. Then as a lecturer in your respective classrooms, it is important that you remember our values. Are we tolerant towards one another? Do we embrace, diversity in everything we do, the way we teach, the way we talk, the way we conduct one another, yourselves towards your colleagues, and so forth? I'm happy to say that we're in phase 3 of a brand audit for the university done by a brand expert company. Phase 4 has been approved, which will be a total new corporate identity for the university, because it's needed. Our look and feel is not relevant. But what I want to say today is thank you for bringing us back to the basics of what we are and what we stand for in terms of our vision, mission, values, and our motto. Make sure that your student experience your world to a better future. And once again, I want to say it's everybody's responsibility. It's not just the lecturer. It starts at the security guard, at the gate, where parents will be entering. And that is actually where it starts. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that comment. Yes, and applaud, please. Yes.
I just want to top up the part that she left. Because when they come to the VUT, you know, they are our students. And where we get a hiding as corporate affairs is that when they leave, we are expected to interact with them as alumni, but forgetting that when they were inside the university, we never treated them well. So the challenge is how will they want to stay connected to the alma mater and contribute, yeah, if they were not kept well. And there's also one subject that is close to my heart. I'm working very closely with the student counseling and the residences. Student poverty. We have students that are poor, unfortunately, and they rely on NSFAS. And we urge you as lecturers to help us identify those. I think that there was also a reference which was made to say we must socialize. You need to understand your learners, your students, and you must be able to notice that something is wrong and speak to that student separately to identify what the challenge is. If you can't solve it, refer them, please. We want them to experience VUT as a well to a better future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your remarks around the hidden curriculum. I think it's sometimes one of the most important things that we neglect. And you've pointed out that if you want to address the hidden curriculum, if you want to make changes to that, self-awareness is the key. How do you get people? What mechanisms? What training? How do you get people to be more self-aware? How do you get people to that stage where they can reflect on what they do and how they do it, and then change their behavior accordingly?
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, over to you, sir.
The previous speaker just alluded to what I wanted to ask, but I want to ask it in more specific terms. Dr. Shawa, I would like to ask you, what you are saying here is that we need social constructivists as lecturers. And it's my experience that that is not something that's going to happen overnight. You've got to change people's worldview extensively. If you look at the VUT context, the worldview we have is still very much, if I can use the term now, pre-colonial kind of worldview. So how do we, it means to me that the university has to put resources towards this. Our lecturers, whether they're first year or whatever year, and I include myself in that, are not trained to be social constructivists. And that is something that the university is going to have to address if we embrace this.
Thank you so much for that comment. Are there any other questions? I don't see any. In that case, I will ask Dr. Shawa to respond to your questions. Dr. Shawa, over to you.
Thank you very much. I think very beautiful questions and reflections and comments from all of you. Thank you very much for that. Quite a few questions. Well, the first question I think was about students kind of failing to be assisted to be creative and so on and so forth. I think that it's a scene. I'm not a religious man like the Vice Chancellor coming, but it's a scene to deny students' voice. Students must be given voice, whether it is in the classroom arena, whether it is the way we teach, or whatever it is. Students must be given voice. That's the only way students will be able to learn to express themselves. That's the only time students will learn to respect other people's views. That's the time students will be able to learn how to listen to others. And that's a very important tenet for any human being. So I think to simply say, well, I'm a lecturer here, I tell you this, you can go to the library and read, because you see I'm not a teacher, I'm a lecturer. It's very dangerous to the academy. We need to create spaces for students to engage with us. And that's why we're here. That's why we're in the university. And I think this, it would be a very nice paper if somebody wrote a paper that problematizes this notion of teaching and lecturing. I think we need to really engage with these things, because we think, oh, I'm not a teacher, I'm a lecturer, so you go and do your own things. But there might be more things that we need to do to help our students. There was a comment surrounding co-authorship and so on. That was just a comment, very interesting. And there was a question or a comment from here on rote learning, another scene. Rote learning is another scene. We don't contribute to the citizenry by rote teaching, by using rote teaching. And you are right, colleague, that the situation is that students have been socialized in a way that they learn through rote learning because of where they have come from and so on and so on. We need to discourage that at the onset. So starting from the word go, if you do realize that students tend to prioritize rote learning, then you need to be innovative enough to be able to socialize them otherwise. And as a colleague said, socialization is not something that happens in a day. I think he was talking about that. But you must start doing it. Otherwise, they will finish the university, they will get your degree, they'll become very big politicians, whatever it is, and embarrass you. So yes, we need to think critically. We need to, if we can't be very critical of ourselves, chances are that our students will not be helped to be critical. Who is supposed to teach? A very interesting question. And a colleague from the market director, thank you very much for your answer. And if you ask me who is supposed to teach, I say who is prepared to teach. And we have a lot of people called professors who may not be prepared to teach first-year students. And we have a lot of people who may not be called professors who may be prepared to teach first-year students. What I'm saying is, if you want to go and teach first-year students, socialize them properly, you need to be prepared to do it. And it means that the university has to make proper programs for staff development, proper training programs that will help people, whether you're a professor, you're a junior lecturer, whatever level, to be prepared to teach first-year students. And so to really just label and say, look, oh, this one is just a junior lecturer. Oh, this one is a professor. Oh, no. Are you prepared to teach first-year students? That should be the question. So there was a very nice comment from the marketing. I don't want to repeat that. That was beautiful from our colleague from the marketing department. And yes, the idea of the hidden curriculum. Very, very important. And people we tend not to realize this. We spend most of our time planning our sessions, how to deliver them, and so on. We forget that the hidden curriculum can be very, very dangerous. And I think, again, one way of doing this is to be able to begin to assist your academics to realize issues surrounding the hidden curriculum. For example, at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, in our staff development programs that I'm involved in, we engage with all staff members, academics, seriously, on them being able to critically reflect on issues to deal with the hidden curriculum. And also they have to go, for example, they follow some of the courses that we teach, where they engage with curriculum holistically and be able to reflect in a portfolio how things like these, hidden curriculum or whatever aspects of curriculum, might have affected them or might affect them in their own teaching and learning. In other words, to be able to assist them to bring that self-awareness that they can critique themselves. And they will send those portfolios. It's part of their competence, issues that they will send those portfolios to be marked. So it's one of the modules that we do in curriculum, and we really stress on this, that people begin to realize, to assist them to understand, themselves and how they can change. Somebody talked to the issue of social constructivist. Very interesting. Yes, you talk about the worldviews. It is true. I think the best thing to do for me, and this is what I do in my teaching, is that I try to encourage students, all academics, we teach mostly academics and postgraduate students, to understand that no worldview is better than the other. That there are worldviews. And that they should realize that different worldviews have their own pros and cons. And therefore, that they should be able to say, for example, in this, what I'm doing here, I'm following a more social constructive understanding because of ABCD. They've got to have a reason for it. They've got to justify it. And yes, I have my own biases. I'm very much in philosophy and so on. I'm very much interested in social constructivism and so on. But I should realize that's not the only worldview. That there are different worldviews and they can work complementarily. But we need to be aware of them. The danger is when one has a particular worldview and thinks this is the only way to do things. And we do get academics like that, who say, no. There is no research without a hypothesis. And then we look at them. Why do you say this, Professor? There is no research without a hypothesis. Oh, maybe you are coming from a particular worldview, Professor. Anyway, to begin to critique, for academics to be able to critique this, they will have to be exposed to these issues. And again, the issue of training comes very handy, very, very important. I don't know whether I have not touched some of the issues, but in general terms, I think that we seriously, and I think seriously, need to reflect on ourselves as academics. To be able to say, what is it that am I doing wrongly? What is it that may not be working? What is it that seems to work? And therefore, that's why you can't teach using notes of 1964 every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shaw. Prof, do you have a question or a comment? Okay, over to you quickly.
Yeah, it is on who teaches first-year students, and I connect it to what the marketing team mentioned. Generally, the answer is you should give the best. The first-year students, you should give them your best. But sometimes there is a politics of course allocation in the departments which you have to be aware of. There are those which people don't want to go there to teach. If, for example, he's teaching engineering, you would want these first-year students to appreciate the foundational knowledge of the discipline in engineering. I know you have a course evolution of engineering, how it has evolved from time up to now. So you want someone who is knowledgeable, who is grounded thoroughly in terms of theory and in terms of practices to go and give them that foundation. And it also depends on how the courses in the first year are clustered. Because normally, in our experience, you find first-year students, they have their foundational courses in the discipline, then there are general multidisciplinary courses, and then you may find there are subject-specific courses. What the marketing team is saying, they go and market and say, we have the best lecturers. Then when the first-year students come, they meet the worst experience. Certainly, you do not expect them to come. So generally, you need people who can charm them when they are still fresh, and that's when the institutionalization will be able to go. But you know, academicians are very difficult people, and people out there, sometimes when they are looking at us, they know we are humble, we are very good people. But once you enter the university, that's when you know the kind of people we are. The intrigue which is there, the politics which we play, and you get it across so many areas. For example, when you are assessing PhD or master's dissertations and you read reports, that's when you know. And especially those who have just graduated with PhDs, sometimes they are very, very difficult people. My experience throughout my career is the way you deal with the students. First of all, you never know the students you are teaching where you are going to meet them in the future. And my experience has been a good one wherever I go. Even yesterday when I reached at the airport, as someone was standing, when I was leaving Entebbe, then one of them said, yes, you taught me at this institution. And I was happy. But if you meet your students and they are cursing, they say, look at this man, look at this woman. That is not a good experience that you would want to be associated with. And sometimes there are certain things which we should learn, that as human beings we should treat the way others, the way we would like them to treat us. You read, you know the politics in paper reviews for publication, for example. The politics which is there. And is done by fellow academics. You know the politics which is done in the promotion from a senior lecturer to a senior lecturer, and it becomes much more intense if it is to move from senior lecturer to associate professor. The politics there changes the dimension. Then if it is to move from associate professor to a professor, and you have maybe two people in a department who are senior professors, they will tell you nobody is going to be promoted, maybe over his or her dead body. But that shouldn't be the case. That should be part of mentorship. That when you are in a unit, you should feel happy when you have people really to delegate to, and you should go out when it is time for retirement. You should certainly leave and know you have left a team. We had in our country, there is one person who was a medical profession. He was specializing in one field. But he was always encouraging only his family. He trained his son, then he trained another, I think a cousin. There were only 3 in that field of specialization. And when he died, it is only those 2 who have remained. But why should it be? If you are really an academic, and you know that you have been there to transmit knowledge. So sometimes the perceptions and how we deal, not only first-year students, but all the students, the interactions, if you have a PhD dissertation on your desk for assessment, and it takes more than 3 months, and you have not submitted a report, no, that you are contributing to, not the socialization, I think. I don't know how the terminology in terms of conceptualization you can apply. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. A round of applause, please. Thank you. We are now done with this section of the program. We are entering another part of the program wherein we are going to be having a dialogue about the opportunities and challenges of teaching first-year students, and also a dialogue on the best practices. So the participants or people who are going to be talking to us in relation to that motion, I'm going to be calling upon the following people to come and ascend the stage, please. The first person would be Dr. Mafini, Anusha Nana, Mr. Baxter, Sumari, Sibongile Mkayani, and Carol Bosman. Yeah, all in all, I think there should be 6. Colleagues, those people, if they are around, can I? So, and those who perhaps would like to continue with this conversation with our keynote speakers, I think it would be nice if you can engage them during lunch and maybe, you know. Okay, I've just been informed that there will still be time, I think, towards the end of the program for those who might want to continue the conversation with them. Thank you so much, colleagues, for coming. Because I can see that we are running a little bit in relation to time, I'm going to ask our colleagues to sort of, talk to us regarding their experiences, their best practices. They will engage with us, and from there, once they are all done, there will be time for you to engage with them in terms of, asking them questions or comments in relation to what they shall have presented to you. So without wasting too much time, I'm going to give the first speaker to talk to us. The first speaker?
I'm not the first speaker, but I was asked just to open the discussion, and I think after this morning we have a very good idea where we are situated in higher education. And with all the presentations, I think we have a good context. It moved from the higher level, and eventually now we've landed with VUT. And as Dr. Shawa has said, we are now in our own life world. And we spoke a lot about self-reflection. And self-reflection is very important, and I think this is the start with this panel discussion. Reviewing the opportunities and the challenges of being a first-year student lecturer at VUT will help us to reflect.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Okay, I'm firstly not Anusha. Anusha actually asked me to step in for her as she's not feeling well, but we're in the same department and I also teach first years. So some of the challenges that I found, especially just teaching first years and also being quite new to VUT, is that, okay, yes, we definitely need to understand the students we are dealing with in first year level. Because firstly, they come straight out of school, they expect to be taught rote learning, sort of given notes, a lot of assistance, things like that. And we have to adapt to going further. I also find issues with not just the content that we teach. So I find that we are actually teaching our students to be good test takers and not like actual critical thinkers. That is a big issue for me. And then also with just the infrastructure-wise. We have beautiful slides that we can put together on a PowerPoint, but we can't use it when we actually go to the venue because either the plug point doesn't work or something doesn't work. So those are the two major issues I have. I'm going to hand you over to my colleague now. He can give you some of his challenges.
Okay, I'm Carl Bosman. I teach, or I'm responsible for software engineering in the computer systems department. My experience has been actually seeing the problems that comes from bad, or I don't want to say bad really, but inadequate first year teaching. We have students arriving at exit level subjects that are clearly not prepared to take those exit level subjects. So we are busy with a recurriculation exercise, a very big one. And I've widely read and consulted on how do we teach some of these subjects at first year level. So I'm not experienced, I'm still a theorist about it. But one of the courses that I'm going to do and teach next semester, I actually got from Harvard University. It's CS50. It's an entry-level programming course. It's actually taught by two professors that surprised me. They have statistics that course was waning. It now is one of the top courses in Harvard University. They've opened the curriculum so that people like me can get hold of it. If you look at that course, it's the epitome of what the gentlemen here have been saying. It's entertaining to begin with. It's definitely creating a social atmosphere that I'm very jealous of. And if we can kind of achieve something like that in the VUT, we're not going to sit with the problems that we are experiencing now at the exit level. I have a saying for my students. I say to some of them, I say, please don't tell anyone that you got lectured by me, especially when they've done badly. But on the other hand, it's very nice when you hear in the, let's say, as you move around, when people start saying, sure, this guy got taught in that school. So my personal ambition is to move towards that our students and we are proud of what we are delivering and doing together. Maybe a final statement I'd like to make. I was in industry for a very long time in my life, and I taught during a transition phase. I came into VUT and then I left it again, and I was a full-time missionary, and I got called by our faculty to just come and do one semester. Now that was 10 years ago. But the one thing I must say to you, when I came back from missions and what I was doing, the whole class in front of me was different to when I was there the last time. I could see when students speak to me, somewhere there's a gogo behind that student who is breaking everything that she can just to make that student be there. So one of the things that I would say that we have to have is empathy for the student and their position. And I honestly believe now that the biggest contribution we can make is at this first year level. That's where we've got to grab people. And I want to sort of just equate it to a bit of a naughty kind of thing to comparison here. But first year students, you can compare it to a man and woman who are getting married. Nobody else can consummate that marriage than what they can only do it. Now what we're doing a lot of the time, we're not consummating the marriage of that student with the university. We put the worst resources into doing it. And we have to capture the minds and the hearts of those students right in the beginning. We complain about a lot of things happening in the academics, but I think we are a lot to blame for it.
Good morning. Right. My name is Marie. I'm from sport management. I'm lecturing sport and physical recreation. So before I'm going to tell you my story, I need some assistance from you. So can everyone please just rise? Stand up, please. Everyone. Right, we have set a long morning, right? Our bodies are a bit tired, so imagine in front of you, there's a huge, big fruit tree. Any kind of fruit, can be a pear, orange, avocado, anything. Right. So, you see your tree now? You have it. Right. You see up there's a nice big orange. I have an orange tree, right? And I want that one for my basket. So let's stretch, right? Get your orange. Oh, you need to reach on your toes. Oh, this one is a bit stiff. Oh, there we have it. In our basket. Come. Right. Hey, there's another one. Now, I'm going to have a nice orange juice. Oh, that's it, in our basket. Right, what's going to complement this? Some strawberries. Okay, over here, let's get some strawberries in our basket. Another one, a pineapple. Yeah! Let's get our pineapple in our basket. Right, thank you. Can we sit? Right, now we can start. This is sometimes I see in my class, because I'm teaching anatomy in the first year, and it's very difficult for my students to understand. So I go into a lecture, and sometimes you can see you lose them, and then you stop the whole lesson, and I'll stretch, like this exercise with them. All I do, Simon Says. Alright, so all of you know Simon Says. So we'll play a game, right? Just get our thoughts from the work, then we continue. And I found it worked from first years to third year students, right? So it brings an element of fun into the classroom, right? And it's also, they get to know me because it's a sort of a way of interaction. And that's where I want to bring that point, as my fellow colleagues and all of you know. We need to walk that path with the students. They are in front of you, maybe 100 students. They're individuals, and they are coming to your classroom with their own cultures, and we need to now pull that culture in our classroom together. So yes, we have the academic side, but in order to engage them as lifelong learners, because we don't want them only to learn for 3 years, we want to engage them to learn as long as they can, right? And for that, that interaction, right, is very necessary. I also was involved with the first year orientation program. And last year, we did some recreational activities focusing on soft skills like problem solving, thinking creatively, thinking a bit out of the box with the students. And last year students, when they see you wherever, right, it can be on campus or wherever in the streets, they will come and greet you because you walked that path with them, right? And if I think back to my university life, when there's a prof or someone walking in the corridor, you will always greet. And that's what I miss at VUT, right? We don't greet each other. You don't need to know and know the person, but it's just that sort of respect. And it brings me back to the core values, and I'm so glad we addressed this today, because we are missing the point. We are teaching academics, but we do not teach the soft skills. And my third years are going to work integrated learning now, and I need to teach them those soft skills, how to just to talk to someone over a phone, right? It's general stuff we ought to know. But some people, we need to practice that. And it goes back to the first year. We need to engage the core values of UT. We need to bring that into our classroom. And we need to teach that as well. Because a human being, in order for you to know that off by heart, you need to engage with it regularly, right, before you can go on. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning. Two things. First, I wasn't expecting to sit here. I was not also expecting to do exercises. Now, it's been a few years since I've actually taught first-year students, but my recollection of is most of the students who come to our university expect to be spoon-fed. My experience is we have lecturers who are prepared to do that. We should not be spoon-feeding children, students. We should be teaching them to learn. We need to change the culture of the lecturers in order to change the culture of the students. That's my experience. And that's all I'm going to say.
I wonder, following on what all you've contributed now, and my heart is warm for all of you. First year experience is also important to me. Obviously, I was out of circulation for 9 months due to studies, but I would like to compliment Dr. Machika and Hazel. We've gone through a rigorous process actually to get Hazel appointed, but I must say you've done an excellent job, so thank you for that. What's also good is to see that we're sitting with a venue full of passionate people, and I'm sure that is why you are here. And all of you are burning with passion for our first year students. But what I'm hearing is that there are feelings maybe that you need skills to move to a new space. And I think with this morning's discussion, we've just opened up that space for all of us. So I wonder, maybe is there any reflections from the audience?
I'm sorry to dominate, but I thought I will use this opportunity. I just want to go back to the word that was in AHA, spoke by Dr. Shaba. Okay, sorry. The word becoming. I think that the knowledge that we have and the skills that we have is not only effective in the class. So we should practice what we preach. So we found that we teach students that they are going to become something. But we've got the technology, the technology transfer in TTI, the incubator. So the knowledge that we have as lecturers and the skills that we have, we can teach students to apply once they are still in a safe environment, which is the university. Like for instance, we've got people who are retrenched. They don't know why they were retrenched. Some they are dismissed, and we've got a Department of Law who can assist such people with the students. Someone needs to go to CCMA. We can have a practice there to come to VUT first to hear your story and advise you before you go to CCMA. So when we talk about becoming, we are saying people need to we should teach entrepreneurial. By teaching entrepreneurial, we're not saying you are going to start a business, but to come up with creative ways, to come up with better ways of doing things. So the becoming part of it is not only for students, it's for us lecturers as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Monica.
Last year I had a case, I chair Senate, so I had a case of disciplinary action which came through the school. and it concerned a first-year student who was doing Bachelor of Information Systems. He had hacked into our e-learning system and closed it down for about 3 days. Then they were saying the young boy should be punished. And I asked them, why do you want to punish this boy? And they said the reason, he had even warned them. There was an email where he was asking them to do something. He wanted more practicals, and they were teaching theory. And he told them, in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to shut down your e-learning system. He sent them an email. They ignored, and they said, no, this is a young boy, what can he do? And when he shut it down, that's when they knew that he had a skill. So I told them the best way of dealing with such is get closer this student, learn what exactly he did, and groom him. So one of my deputy vice chancellors has an e-learning, an IT firm where they do programming. I said, you take him there for mentorship. And after about 6 months, he told me he's the best programmer. But one of his problems was personality. He doesn't want to work with others. He wants only to work on his own. Now they started working on his personality. A very small boy, when you look at him, you couldn't understand the capacity he had. Now last week he was selected. There is a company which has selected them. They will be in Kenya for 1 year, doing specialized training in a certain area. But it is the transformation and learning what exactly he wanted that was able to lead to that, his development. Because if we had chased him, that skill would have died. And sometimes we underrate first-year students, and they have a way of communicating. Of course, some have bad manners. There is no doubt about it. But there are some who are communicating a certain message that sometimes we need to understand as lecturers.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. I would just like to comment on Sumari. For those who haven't experienced her, Sumari is one of a kind. Sumari has got this big heart for first-year students. During orientation, she works with them from Friday and the whole Saturday. You will see her running up and down on the grounds of the stadium. You will see her running up and down at GW. You will see her running down at that open space across GW. And she does that with the first years together with the mentors. But what also that resulted in is the kind of relationship that developed between her and the first year students. The relationship that makes them talk always about her. I haven't told her, you're hearing it now. The relationship that develops, even if they don't know her, between the parents and Sumari. Because the parents phoned me about Sumari. So what we did now, let's also do with our first years. Thank you.
May I please just comment on Linda? I found it's very important for first-year lecturers and lecturers to come engaged with the students as well. It's not only me, we are a team, and all of us need to run around limited. I mean, it's not necessary to run around after them, but you need to be there. When we do silly stuff like we've done this morning, or activities, you need to be there building straw bridges with them. We had egg drop last time. You need to be there. Just be there and maybe say, do this and do that. not taking the show, right, but just be there.
It's me again. I'm sitting here, I'm curious to know, how do you as lecturers lecture first year students? When you see them for the first time in class, what is it that you say to them? The reason why I'm asking this is, I used to lecture first year students in 1996, way back. And during that time, I could speak to them with authority, to say, you are first year student, don't come with your attitude of the high school, whatever. And they would listen. Because out of that, I instilled discipline, commitment, and motivation to work harder. And some of them, one of them is an MD of Lafarge, and some are entrepreneurships. But today, we're having a different kind of students. How do you, connect on the first time you see them in class?
One of the things that, excuse me, impressed me from the Harvard course was that the professor teaching it, one of the first things he said to the students is that this course is not about competing with one another, but it's competing with yourself to see how far you can actually get. Now, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to test students in the beginning of the course to see where they are at. And then we're going to test them at the exit level of the course so that they themselves can see. In my field of endeavor, I think it's very important that people get confidence in their own abilities. I think the next thing that you need to do with the students is to show them the end of where they can go, what they can reach, what the potential is within the university and also in employment. And I'm going to use Annika to come and help us with the entrepreneurship, because we can't just prepare people for employment. We've got to realize we've got to grow entrepreneurs. So one of the things I would focus on in the very, very first contact session is to try and grab their attention and show them what the potential is of this endeavor of what they're doing.
Just to add to what my colleague said, what I did with my first years was I basically told them to write down their goals for the year. It didn't have to be related to VUT, it could be related to personal development. And then also just tell me, like I took about half an hour of the lecture, just for each one of them to tell me exactly what they expected from me as a lecturer and what they expected to put into the actual course itself. And then also the entrepreneurship. So I gave them a list of possibilities of what they could do using our national diploma, whatever they would like to actually aspire to become. And I said it didn't necessarily have to be law related. It could be anything. I mean, you could use law as a foundation. So I found that, yes, from the first contact session, then you kind of sort of figure out where your students want to go, what they expect from you, what they expect to put in, you can also tell them what your expectations are. I also told them that it's not going to be completely just me writing on the board and giving them information all the time. I actually have, I did a little sort of mini moot. So for the non-legal people, what a mini moot is, it's like you have a judge and you present a side of a case. So it's similar to a court case. And for them, I felt that it was very, very interesting because not a lot of them actually know how the process works. So I wasn't necessarily a judge. I picked 3 students to sort of judge the rest of the students, and they had to present arguments and things like they were in real court. And I found that it not only enhances their skills, but it makes them feel a lot more, They feel a lot more that they can participate a lot more in class when they are actually participating, as opposed to you just coming in, giving information and getting out, because you don't have a good retention rate that way.
Yes, adding to that, in sports I also do a presentation, and it's very important to hear their goals and expectations. And yes, you take a whole class session for that, and it's important to give your expectations also to them. Sorry. Yes, first years are a different kind of breed, but when they set their first step into the class, they are quiet, they are respectful, and it changes as they go into the second quarter and so on. So there's no problem with respect or anything like that, discipline with first year students, but it changes, and there's the problem.
Yeah, just 1 minute, Doc. My experience, I don't know about you guys, but I help with registration. Now, I'm information technology, but I've seen students with registrations when they come to information biotechnology, they don't get in, so they want something with technology. So what happens then is we get students in class that don't actually know what course they're on. So the first time in class, I tell them what the course is about and where they can go to see if that's what they want to do. And they always say yes, as long as it's technology.
Thank you. Yes, I can only support all the sentiments that have been expressed here regarding motivation of the students and to encourage critical thinking. The problem I see is that the real world is often so much different. And I mean, I don't want to hurt anybody personally, but especially universities are often run by such unimaginative, narrow-minded bureaucrats. But it is really, no, I don't want to hurt anybody personally. Unfortunately, it is like that. You know, that discourages also me as a lecturer. You know, because I don't want to work in such a world.
Well, thank you for that honesty. Most probably it's what we also want to say.
Another thing is that I feel we should have a department of disaster management. This year it was very horrible. I know that the management science and the enrollment department have tried their level best, but I was seeing students every day, even after 3 months. After 3 months, students coming to a class, and I feel, I don't know whether it's Dr. Machika or whoever from enrollment who can write a massive email and apologize to our students. Because you find that students come to class and you don't have time to use this social constructivism. You are pressed with the work that you need to cover, and you go up and down. You go back to your first learning unit. Some students are behind, you know, really it was very challenging. I know it won't be like that as always, but I think we need to apologize to our students and perhaps to our lecturers, because they've worked very hard to repeat time and again, because after a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, students will say, eventually I managed to register and I'm coming for the first time. And we are in learning unit 4, supposed to go back to learning unit 1. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Just three comments, quick ones. So I think your sentiments about bureaucracy in the university is very pertinent. And I think we are beginning globally to see that if we are going to be operating like factories, like industry, we really begin to see how we are missing out the real time for teaching and learning. And I think that we need to be very open with ourselves. If we really want to improve teaching and learning, then we need to bring back the idea of the university as a critical space. The other thing I want to comment on is I think somebody talked about Dr. Sumatra and the relationship that you make, and I found that very interesting. I think the lady over there talked about how even parents begin to call you and so on. I think a lot of research in South Africa, or maybe in Africa, seems to have missed the idea of social capital and cultural capital issues, to the extent to begin to see how our students develop their social networks. And in fact, we discover that more students who have bigger or larger social capitals tend to pass in the universities better than those students who have less social capital. And one way of actually addressing this social capital deficit, if you like, is exactly what we are doing by creating these networks, so that students whom we normally call as unprepared are given chance to relate to a larger group that can actually impact on them in terms of how they develop and grow. And I think we really seriously need as universities, to begin to understand on how we can tap on literature, on social cultural, capital and social capitals in terms of developing our students. The last one is a very interesting one. I think the colleague over there talked to issues about Harvard teaching, not necessarily for competition, not necessarily for norm references. I'll tell you one example. When I started teaching in New Zealand, when I was doing my PhD, I remember I gave an exam to first-year students. And then one student couldn't answer one of the questions. And she wrote, she said, "Sir, I can't answer this question, but I have another question that I'm going to answer." And so she had her own question and answered it. So I told my professor that, look, this can't be accepted. This is a 0. And the professor looked at me, said, "Oh, where do you come from, Brian? This is not how we do things here." I said, "What do you mean?" I asked the following questions, and the student brought her own question. So he says, "No. What we're interested in is, can we ask this student to explain to us what processes she took to answer this question? Because if we begin to understand the processes that she used to be able to understand, to answer the question that she posed to herself, we probably might learn that we might help her to use the same processes to answer the question that you asked." And so what it means is that you need to call this student, forgive the student a 0. Call this student and listen to her why she did not answer your question, and why she answered the question she asked for herself, she answered it correctly. Learn the process that she took. And it changed my whole understanding of thinking, of teaching. For me, it was, at that time, those give exams, you don't follow the instructions, you fail. But now I began to see that, in fact, in this particular situation, I'm given a situation that I can use to actually advance teaching and learning. And so the student explained to me what she did and so on, and she did, to cut the story short. From her story, we could actually begin to see how we could help this student engage with other persons. And so I think there are a lot of opportunities that we need to do. But hey, we have a system, and sometimes we tend to just perpetuate the system. And unfortunately, by doing that, we may just reproduce inequality. Thank you.
I'm a lecturer in the Department of Communication, and we teach basically all the students within our university. My experience has been that students experience a sense of helplessness against bureaucracy, especially when they don't know who to approach, except the lecturer, who's also most probably not in a situation to help them. This specific semester was very difficult in the sense that our registration process and our timetabling was difficult. But what was the worst for me is that students came to me who did not qualify for exams, but what happened then is they were deregistered 2/3 throughout the semester, sent home, and re-registered for the same course 2 weeks before the exam. and student had missed assessments and now did not qualify for the exam. So for me, those are problems that students should not face, and they should have recourse in a situation like that. And how it could be addressed, I really don't know, but that's something lecturers face every day. Students complain about those things to us, and we can't really do anything about that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's the frustration and actually the helplessness.
I think just to add, I've realized that there's lots of women commenting than men here. So I need to say something. While we qualified in our different field, we're supposed to lecture. And part of lecturing, I think we need to realize that part of it, we're managing a transition, student transition from secondary school into university. And you have seen that transition even from preschool to primary school. Every parent will say, my kids were crying. So at this time, they are not crying. I think it's more us crying than them. Because I hear a lot of negative things, and I'm not sure we all experience here. Are these things that we are saying are things that we are doing? That's my question. Because we need to, we're supposed to be part of it, contributing to manage the transition. I'm a product of this university, and for my postgraduate, I went to a university where, as a postgraduate, I attended a month of orientation. I mean, if infrastructure and the systems are in place, and we can do the same, give them a month of orientation, I don't think we will need this course. Because there's so many issues. You've got people who don't have money. While you are teaching in front of them, they're thinking, what am I going to eat? There are those who have money, and they, for the first time in their life, they've got 5,000 that they need to manage for a month. Pay school fees, pay this, and it's tempting. While you are teaching, they're thinking, what clothes to buy, what food to do. They even started trying drinking. So, like I said, we need to realize that we're part of managing a transition from maybe, I don't know, youth to adult, or maybe you can name it better. But as the marketing department have said, what are the things that you say in the first class? There are some who have registered for the course. The people from admin will confirm this. They just want to see themselves in the university. Which course, they don't care. I think it's part of us to at first week, to market the university, to market even the course that you are teaching. That person might realize that at the end of the day, wow, this is what I want. But if you scare them and said, half of you will fail, wow.
Sir, can I put you on the spot a bit? Yeah, because you're saying important stuff. What I wonder, if you can give a few pointers from your own practice, how will you advise your fellow colleagues in going about all these hectic issues?
It's not for me to advise. I mean, people end up saying teaching is a calling. And I think we all called to teach. No one forced us to come here. And if we lie to ourselves and say, I've got a passion for teaching, then teach. Show us. I mean, no one is going to stand here and say, I'm a comedian. You must make us laugh, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you. Just a bit like from what we are discussing, the other challenge again we face like I'm teaching first year students is the basics. They don't have the basics. And you are trying to get to them, but for example, you ask them to solve or make X subject of the formula. That means where they are coming from high school, the standards need to improve, because now we have to go back to the standards of the high school. And they only have 3 years. So imagine 3 months, you are still trying to make him understand how to make X or Y subject of the formula. And now the standards now of the university are degrading so that we can try to accommodate for the first year students. So I'm not so sure how can we bridge, because the standards also they are decreasing. I want to believe like we give them assignments, another test, just to pull up their marks, of which is not supposed to be like that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to follow up on that last remark. It actually happened to me that I spent a lot of time with a student in my class, my author shaking book consultation. And to me, what seemed to be obvious was not at all, because at the end of the day, after engaging the student, I realized that the crux of the matter was that the student could not understand that the radius of a circle was of the diameter. But this is a student coming from engineering, and you understand that it is quite challenging, because I assume that, I need not repeat that. It should be obvious for a engineering student because they passed mathematics and so on. I would like actually to go back to a comment by Mr. Bosman Curran about how insufficient could our student at exit level be. And at some point, I wonder, isn't it anything that, at some point, I just think that there are challenges that cannot solve at my own level, because I believe it is even beyond the university. My question on the table is the whole financing model, because I remember a certain time where I had to explain my pass rates and my throughput rate. And my question is, would it be okay that failure could actually, or mistakes, could actually be maybe an opportunity for a eureka moments where the students and myself realize that, a little bit more effort needs to be put in here. But we are so desperate at some point to look good that I will produce a quick homework for a student so that, they can actually attain the exam, even though there is no perspective of learning and passing that particular exam. What am I doing? I look good, I have a good pass rate, I have a good throughput rate, but I have just created a snowball because my colleague that takes the follow-up subject is going to have the same problem. And when they have the same problem, the question is, the student was top in the previous class. What is the problem now? They're going to do the same thing. So it's a snowball effect. At the end of the day, we have produced, instead of a final product that we expected, it is just the raw product that we got into the system. So we basically have failed. So would it be maybe a honest moment to understand that I had at some point to tell my student, listen, it's like this semester you and I have together failed to get you through the exam, because there is an input from me and there is part of the input from you. So both together, we could not make it. Can't we just give ourselves another opportunity next semester and try harder? That means I'm engaging you as an active stakeholder, because at some point, we get so desperate to produce those nice figures, and especially right now, we want to have some financing with the university. I don't know. I seem to have a problem with this financial model, but this is beyond my control. But I think if we can actually start with quality and quantity, I always put it, is quite a very difficult optimization. It is either we have quality or quantity, but if you want quality and quantity, it takes a lot of effort. Unfortunately, we don't have that. So wouldn't it be maybe time to start thinking about alternatives, because what we're having It's actually not helping. I mean, we are deceiving the client who could be industry, the country, and the student himself, because I mean, what does it mean when I have a student in front of me that knows that I did not understand this, but is happy to pass? I don't know. So this was just the one thing. And maybe to the first colleague that on the panel, I mean, we all face that frustration where I pitch into a lecture hall with my laptop and ready to make a presentation and suddenly things are not working. Thank you, Dr. Machika, we have Blackboard. Maybe you can try and put that things and then expect maybe students to view that before your class so that you can just have an interaction. Yes. Thank you.
You had my comment on the problems and frustrations we have with exit level students. As I said just now, I spent many years in industry, and I don't want to say how much, then you know how old I am. But I know what the demands in the industry is like. And what really pains me is that when we get students that arrive at the exit level levels, I know in front of me that we have not dropped standards in any way to get students past. But the problem that we're facing is that one of the biggest issues is that we've got to create or help build employable students or people who can make their own livelihoods. And if we produce people and we continue to produce people that are not competitive in the market out there, we have to fix it. And my feeling is we have to fix it at first year level. Whatever we've said here is true. You know, we get students, I once taught a class in database, and a student, he confronted me and he kind of said, how do you make that conclusion that you just made? And at first I was annoyed with this guy. And then I realized I'm like going over a river where there's a lot of stones in the river, but I was skipping over some stones, like you with your radius, and I just didn't understand what he didn't understand. So my thing was that my initial reaction was he's wrong, but the fact he confronted me, I realized I need to fill in those gaps. The problem that I see at the exit levels at the moment is that, let's say in a exit level subject, I can't go back and fix things that should have been put in place in the first year. We need to actually put those things in place. One of the things that I see is a real issue for our students, especially in our subject, is the whole thing of comprehension. When they read a problem statement, they really need to comprehend what they're reading, because our subjects are very specific. The outcomes are very specific, and if you don't have comprehension, you can pass certain things, but you'll never be good at it. And I think the VUT is sitting on a gold mine, especially in engineering. I think the other faculties probably as well. There is such a demand for the kind of students that we should be producing that none of them will be unemployable. I've sat in recently with one of our industry partners when he interviewed people to be employed with them. And I mean, I could see when he employed this, or when he interviewed specific students, that they're not making the grade. And I can really advise you to go and do that. Sit in interviews with your students where they are interviewed for internships and that sort of thing. So what I'm pleading for you is to say, we need to fix the problems. I hear a lot of my colleagues saying it's the training that students get at school, It's all of those things that are the problem. When I was at school, sorry to be a bit lengthy, we had a succession of maths teachers. And we had a very poor grounding in maths when we arrived in grade 11. And he kind of gave us a test, and he said, you guys are a mess. You shouldn't be in grade 11, maths. And he actually took it upon himself to teach us from grade 7 to grade 11, in grade 11, everything. And then he did grade 12 with us. And he had a very, very high pass rate. And he was like dedicated to getting people through. But I just realized we don't have the capacity. You know, we need to fix at the ground level things. And we need to put these things. I have students in my class that are world-class students. They can compete in any marketplace. But we're not giving them everything that they should be getting. And I think first year will, the correct approach to first year will fix it.
So thank you.
Is there one more question?
Yes. Greetings to the house at large. I don't know if we still have time because I wanted to share my first day experience here at BUT. I have 2 minutes, okay, I'll say that. I came from a technical high school and we were struggling a lot as students, you know, especially we're approaching the matric level. And apparently we had teachers who had dedicated themselves, they dedicated their time into making sure that we understand the fundamentals of what we're doing. You know, we stood with us as students, we thought well, mathematics is only numbers, you know, doing that and that, but then they went further to producing us with the theory behind concepts, you know, how to define a logarithms and stuff like that. So it was at a time when we thought that okay, I'm probably going to fail. I'm probably stupid. I don't understand this. You can imagine how it felt when you got your first 80% in mathematics. It was very exciting. And they moved with us through along to matric. You know, we knew that we don't have to go to lunch time. That they really dedicated their time in helping us. So after I completed my matric, I got funding from Telkom. It was amazing. I'm the first person actually to go to university at home, and I'm the first one to do that even in the environment where I stayed. So it was very, very, you know, I was really blessed at that time. So I came to VUT to do my engineering studies as I got a sponsorship. My sponsorship was that first year I do first semester and second semester, and then second year I do my in-service training, third year I'm done. But then when I arrived here, we did not have any tutors, and most of my lecturers were white. So you can imagine it was very, I could not understand their accent in English and stuff like that, but half of the lecturers were done in Afrikaans, which I could not understand. So it was a very, very terrible experience for me. I remember that we couldn't even go to consult. They were not available to help us with consulting. They were always say, no, you can consult in class, but then when you ask the question in class, you were made, you know, you are made to feel stupid. Like, why would you ask such a thing? How is it that you don't know this? So it was a very terrible experience, and we didn't have tutors at the time. So, you know, to some people, if you think, okay, I'm spoon feeding people, maybe to students it's a different concept altogether. So that experience, it cost me that semester. It cost me that whole year, and I ended up losing the bursary. And you can imagine like my life turned upside down from there on, because seriously, it was a terrible, terrible experience. And from the fact that I was not actually familiar with the technology side of things, when I finished writing my computer systems, I clicked submit. So when my results came in, my final results, there were no exam results for me, because then there was, we did not have help at all. We were just on our own, and it was a very, very terrible experience. So as I switched course and I came to chemistry, I found lecturers who were prepared to teach. lecturers who dedicated their time in making us understand. So I would like to also say that from that time to date, I would like to appreciate the fact that VUT has changed momentum when it comes to that. At least now there are tutors who are available to help students, throughout it, because students might feel somewhat having to ask the question in class, but then it's easier for them to ask a tutor, in the sense that a tutor is somebody who's the same peer as them and then can relate to them, and it's comfortable. You are there to assist them, not to make them feel stupid about things like that. So that's what I wanted to share.
We're going to wrap up the session. I think, yeah, you had the opportunity to share from your heart, and a lot of you have done that. And yeah, I know from experience that, yeah, even if the atmosphere is a bit low now, unfortunately we are going on the boat, on the river, and we're going to have a very nice meal, and you will come back with a lighter spirit. But even though the challenges remain or looks like a lot, there will always be challenges in life. And obviously there's no easy solutions for everything that we're battling with in higher education. But at least maybe I can leave you, how do we eat an elephant? Bit by bit. Okay, and thank you for your willingness to sit under the spotlight and to share. We hope we will take this forward.